In this video, I'll show you how carbs impact our bodies, how consuming too much can make our day-to-day more difficult, and finally, I'll share one way to dramatically mitigate the negative effects of carbs without giving up the foods you love so much. Hi, my name is Stefano, founder of Transparency Foods. I have created 3 monk fruit sweetener products used by over 100,000 people, and I also happen to have a long history of diabetes in my family, so this topic is very close to my heart. Let's get right into it. To understand how carbs affect us, we need to zoom out a little bit and ask ourselves, what are carbohydrates in the first place? And in short, they're just a bunch of little sugar molecules put together. That's it. Carbs are made out of building blocks called monosaccharides. Mono means one and saccharide means sugar molecule. The most relevant monosaccharides in biology are glucose, galactose, and fructose. I made a whole video on them if you're interested in diving deeper, but all you need to know now is that these monosaccharides can combine to form more complex carbohydrates. For example, sucrose, the regular table sugar we're all familiar with, is a disaccharide, which means it's made up of 2 monosaccharides bonded together, one of glucose and another one of fructose. These can also combine to form more complex structures called starches, like a potato, for example. They can also combine to form fiber, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. All right, this may seem like a lot, and I'm not asking you to remember all of that. My only hope is that the next time you see a carbohydrate, you remember that it's literally just a bunch of sugar molecules put together. That's it. Now, let's talk about the most important sugar molecule, glucose. What makes glucose special, among many things, is that it's the preferred energy source for our bodies. It's the fuel that allows us to move, think, dance, talk to our friends, and do all the things we love to do. We need glucose to live, and that's why whenever we eat carbs, our body works very hard to break them down into glucose as quickly as possible. This glucose is absorbed into the bloodstream, and if our body doesn't need it right away, it stores it as fat for later. Our bodies are constantly regulating our blood glucose levels. If they drop too low, our bodies release glucagon, a hormone that triggers different processes to make more glucose, ensuring we always have enough fuel. On the other hand, if glucose levels get too high, like right after eating a cookie, for example, our body releases insulin to help bring them back down. This is why our blood glucose levels fluctuate throughout the day, and it's completely normal. However, as you will learn by watching my videos, rapid increases in blood glucose levels, also known as blood glucose spikes, as well as constantly high blood glucose levels, are harmful to our health in a variety of different ways. They lead to more oxidative stress, glycation, inflammation, insulin resistance, and overall hormonal imbalance. And these in turn lead to negative consequences in the short and long term. That's a very important thing to understand, in my opinion. It doesn't take 20 years to feel the consequences. Not taking control of our blood sugar levels makes our day-to-day more difficult. It results in fatigue, mood swings, brain fog, constant hunger, weight gain, and more. For example, when we eat a big carb-heavy meal and our blood sugar spikes, our body releases a lot of insulin to lower our blood sugar levels. But sometimes it overshoots, bringing our blood sugar levels down way too much, which is what we refer to as a blood sugar crash. This crash makes us tired, sluggish, and it also makes us crave more food, even though we just ate. I particularly avoid this because it makes it hard for me to focus. Feeling tired and restless because of the cravings is exactly the opposite of what I need to sit on my desk and do productive work. So, how can we work on this? A great way to start is to simply remove carbs from our breakfast. That's it. I usually have 4 eggs, a bit of feta cheese, tomato, and avocado on the side, and that's pretty much it. This allows my body to maintain a relatively steady glucose level all the way until lunch. Aside from all the long-term benefits of having one less massive glucose spike a day, which is what most Americans have after eating bagels, a banana, or a whole glass of orange juice for breakfast, I get a lot of short-term benefits as well. More specifically, like I said before, I feel more centered. I don't get cravings or anxiety, so I'm able to focus more for longer. I used to have a lot of carbs and a lot of coffee for breakfast. And let me tell you something, that's a perfect recipe for an emotional roller coaster. All those carbs made me feel tired, so I would make myself a big cup of coffee and get to work. And guess what? My body would bring my blood sugar back down, usually lower than it was in the first place, so I would get cravings. And if you add to that lots of caffeine, right, you end up with restlessness and anxiety. It was hard for me to just stay on my seat working for more than 30 minutes. And that's my tip for today. Try it and let me know if it works for you. I am now going to do a small FAQ, starting with the following question. Can we survive without carbs? This is a great question, and the answer is yes. This is why. First, glucose is so important that if we don't consume carbs, our body is able to use protein and fat to make glucose. Second, even though glucose is a preferred energy source for our bodies, it is not the only one. If we were to completely cut out carbs from our diet, our body will adapt by using protein and fat as energy through different pathways which do not include glucose. In other words, if we were to just completely cut out carbs from our diet, our bodies will adapt and they will use mostly fat, but also protein as a source of energy. This state is called ketosis, and it's the foundational idea behind the popular ketogenic diet. Question number 2, what about fiber? Is fiber a carbohydrate? Yes. Fiber is a carbohydrate, but one that our body cannot break down. They're made still out of glucose sugar molecules linked together, but they're structured in a way that we cannot break down. So they literally pass through our digestive system unchanged. That's what makes fiber different from other carbohydrates and what makes it a very powerful tool to regulate our blood sugar levels. I made a video on this very topic, so make sure to check it out if you're interested. I'll leave the link in the description below. And that's it for this video. If you found this helpful, please like the video and subscribe below. It only takes a second and it helps me a lot in growing the channel. And the more we grow, the more resources I can put into future videos. Thank you again, and until next time.